You can all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I'm John Grady. I'm a social worker at St Leonard's Hospice. I don't know, do you know where St Leonard's Hospice is? Yeah. On Tadcaster Road in York. Yeah. Aware there may be people listening to this or watching this that are not in York. And I was going to say on that subject that in terms of hospice around the country, there are hospices covering every part of the country. If people are uncertain which hospice is their local one, they can Google that very easily. There is also Hospice UK that provides a directory of hospices around the country if people need to find out where their local hospice is or what it's called. And much of what I'm going to talk about today applies to all hospices, but not everything necessarily. There are core services that all hospices tend to provide, but this is obviously a presentation on what we provide at St Leonard's for the group here. Is that okay? So,
you might like to mention that you're an AWOC.
Oh, there we go. I am also an AWOC. My wife and I chose not to have children many years ago. So I am unofficially a member.
Welcome.
Thank you. So St Leonard's, as you can see, is the leading provider of palliative and end-of-life care in York and across North Yorkshire. And we care for people with any diagnosis that is life-limiting. That could include any kind of cancer, MS or multiple sclerosis, motor neuron disease, Parkinson's disease. It can also include dementia and cardiac, pulmonary and kidney disease at a point when it is no longer treatable. Our care is provided free of charge. We never ask for payment. And we, as well as providing a number of services in the hospice itself and in the community, we provide bereavement support for family members and carers of the patients that receive services with us. And just coincidentally, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So and these are fairly new missions, values and vision that we have adopted in the last 12 months, I would say. And the mission is to provide accessible services across the area and across the diverse and changing needs of the people in that area. We're also wanting to campaign for better public policy and awareness of palliative and end-of-life issues. Encouraging partnership working with other organisations to improve the quality of care for patients and secure the future of hospice care. The vision is that everybody living with a life-limiting illness has access to the best possible care and will be supported to die well. And the values that we use to hopefully achieve these are compassion, accountability, respect, excellence, and synergy, which, as you can see, very cleverly spells out cares. I think synergy was the difficult one, as you can probably imagine, and that's why it's synergy, but that's in relation to the partnership working and working with other organisations, which we realise is incredibly important. So our services today, currently what we provide is an inpatient unit at Tadcaster Road, as you say, which is a specialist short stay unit providing expert round-the-clock care for largely symptom management and end-of-life care. When we say short-term, the average length of stay on the unit is around about 10 to 14 days. And we discharge home or to other more appropriate care if needs be, around about a third of the people that come into the inpatient unit. A lot of people think that hospice care, and particularly the inpatient unit, is all about death and dying, and it's not necessarily. So people can come in for a period of time to get specialist symptom management, And that may be medical, it could be holistic in terms of the care that we provide. Obviously, I'm a social worker, so I'm providing non-medical care. And we have a multidisciplinary team that works with patients on the inpatient unit. We also have a hospice-at-home service, which comprises of nurses and healthcare assistants who support those patients who want to die at home. The carer support service is a team of healthcare assistants who allow for respite for people being cared for at home. So a carer can have sort of 2 to 3 hours a week, sometimes more than that, but that's what we normally commit to in order that that person can go and do something else to look after themselves, potentially, whilst we are caring for their family member at home. And then the bereavement service, as I mentioned, which is staff and volunteers providing a listening service for those experiencing grief and loss. There's also a telephone support and coordination service called single point of coordination, and they triage a lot of the calls that come in for us and ensure that people get to the right place if they need help or advice. So one of the big parts of what I do also is within the Sunflower Wellbeing Hub. This was launched a couple of years ago. We provide different sessions on a Thursday morning for anyone who has been diagnosed with a life-limiting illness or anyone that cares for them or a family member. The sessions are essentially there for people to come and have an introduction to the hospice. So we will often offer to give people a tour of the hospice so that they can see what the building is like and the services that we provide. It's often an outlet for people coming to talk to others going through a similar experience, whether they're the patient or a family member or a carer. And it is essentially chat, coffee and cake, and a way for people to be able to get support. We also have bereavement support groups running from the Wellbeing Hub, currently called Living Through Grief, and that's a 6-week program where people experiencing bereavement can get support in a group setting. One of the most important things I think we offer is complementary therapies, and this is through individual sessions and groups. There is a coordinator for our complementary therapies, as well as volunteers who provide those services and provide an amazing amount of symptom management actually for patients, and relaxation and a chance just to let go of stress for family and carers. And we're currently working with the MND Association, and we provide a monthly social group at the hospice, as well as attending a monthly group that they run at the folk hall in New Year's. And those are obviously alternate fortnights, where again it's myself and our complementary therapist, Margaret, who can provide complementary therapy and social work input for those patients. The MND Association were particularly keen on that partnership because they realised that many people with MND do not access hospice services for one reason or another, whether it's that they're not referred or whether it's just that they don't know about it. And so that's something that has already started to change, and we've had a couple of people that have come in very recent weeks who've received treatment on the inpatient unit with MND. So that's already starting to reap benefits. So these are figures actually from, as it says, April 23 to March 24. But we had, during that period of time, 269 patients cared for in the inpatient unit, just around twice that cared for through hospice at home, and that's with nearly 6,000 hours of care. We've enabled 226 carers to have a break, which again was just over 3,000 hours of respite support. 166 people supported through the bereavement support team, 285 supported by the wellbeing drop-ins. Those figures may actually be more this year because of various changes that we've made. We now have a person that is in charge of organising admissions and discharges on the inpatient unit, and that has proved incredibly valuable in terms of getting more people in from a waiting list that we might have at any time, and also getting people back home again. And the wellbeing drop-ins is also, we now get, I would say on average, around 20 people on a Thursday morning coming in regularly for support, which is 20 to 25 actually. And then these are now several slides just of examples of work that we've done with particular individuals. And Ian is someone who had an MD, came into the inpatient unit, had never seen the hospice before. He, I believe, received care before we really had the partnership with the NMB Association, but got a great deal of support from the staff there, and obviously benefited from complementary therapy in terms of the relaxation. So that's good. Christine and Colin came in. We celebrated a birthday for her. We have a number of events that we celebrate on inpatient units for people. We've had marriages, we've had christenings, we've had birthdays, we've had Christmases on Christmas Day and before Christmas Day, whenever has been appropriate for when people have wanted to do that. And for many people, obviously, it's nice to be able to celebrate these family occasions on the unit. Alice is somebody that received support through the bereavement support group, and was pleasantly surprised, I think, in terms of saying that these things might have felt dark or scary, but were not at all. That this was a powerful experience for her. And whilst it doesn't make the hurt go away, it helps. Neil came in for some symptom management on the inpatient unit, and was able to go home very, very quickly once that had been improved upon. Comments on how worried it was to come in when he wasn't too sure what to expect, but has found it much easier than expected. Alan is somebody that comes to our wellbeing and drop-in. And Alan actually was carer for his wife. She died on the inpatient unit, I believe, but he's received support. And now Alan himself has a cancer diagnosis and is now receiving support in his own right as a patient. Mike and Manuel were cared for by the hospice at home team, so they never came into the hospice, but were cared for at home. Mike achieved his long-term wish of marrying Manuel. They had a service at home, and this was something that the hospice at home team were very involved in and were able to support happening, which was really important to them. So Georgina was somebody that we did some advanced care planning with, and she, when she came into the unit, we were able to discuss with her how she wanted her care to look in the future, and to hopefully give her some control over that. And that's something I'll probably discuss a little bit more with the group today, because I think that's something that's really important for AWOCs, looking at advanced care planning and how you want your care to be in the future. And then Ruby, who's just one of our, I think, half a dozen pet therapy animals. Ruby's just the most lovely natured dog who comes in very regularly, I think probably weekly, with her owner Lynn, and she almost always puts a smile on people's faces. We've had a variety of animals actually come to the hospice. We had a racehorse once actually with its own support pony. There's a company that after racehorses have finished their racing careers will look after them and then provide them to care homes, hospices and so on as a way of brightening people's days a little bit. We've had llamas, we've had pygmy goats, which can make a bit of a mess, but fortunately they're little pellets, so they're easy to clean up after. And we've had a very small pony as well. And they all did a circuit of the unit and went into people's rooms, and it was quite a day, that one, you imagine. The funding for us is essentially around 27% of our funding comes from the NHS, and that's from the local integrated care board. But we must raise just under £8 million a year to run all our services. And so as you no doubt know, that we have a number of shops around the area. We have a fundraising team that orchestrates an amazing program of fundraising through sponsorship, through events. We just had a plant sale at the weekend, which many people managed to get new plants for home and garden for. And the Moonlight Walk, from you can see from the photo, is one of our annual events, but there are numerous events that go on through the year that help us to raise that money so we can provide these services. So in terms of those people watching the YouTube, as I said earlier, if you're uncertain of the hospice provision in your area, that's something you can Google or go to Hospice UK for their directory. Most hospices will provide inpatient unit services and bereavement services, certainly. Many now also are doing hospice at home and some sort of wellbeing service. And many provide more than we do, potentially. Some of the larger hospices have more in the way of groups and things going on in their wellbeing services. But the good thing I think about hospices, and I've worked as a palliative care social worker for 25 years. The good thing about hospices is that they respond to their local community, and so whatever the hospice is providing will have been done in conjunction with what the local community wants or needs. And so do go online and check and see what is available for you in the local area. In terms of the other things that I was going to talk about today, advanced care planning is something that is very close to my heart and something which I am also involved in providing teaching for. And I would encourage people to find out, and it may not necessarily be through a hospice. If you don't have a life-limiting illness, then you would potentially be advised to go through Citizens Advice or Hospice UK. Citizens Advice or Age UK, and they can certainly provide guidance or assistance around advanced care planning. It's in terms of the group here, I'm happy to go into more detail and provide some training at some point in the future if that would be helpful. But things like informal advanced care plans, advanced decisions to refuse treatment, certainly lasting powers of attorney can be very helpful in terms of ensuring that you get the care or support that you may need in the future. One question I like to ask around this is, does anybody know what next of kin means? What does it mean?
Anybody.
Absolutely, yes. Well done. There is still a lot of people who think that next of kin is your nearest blood relative, and this is not correct. Next of kin can be anyone you choose it to be, and that may be if you have a very large family, but you simply choose to have somebody else who you trust and want to be the person that is the first contact, or the person most involved in your care in the future. You passed that test with flying colours. Clearly, you've heard others that before, yes. But next of kin still doesn't have any legal definition in the UK. There's no legal authority that you have as next of kin. And quite honestly, even as a spouse or a blood relative, if you don't have a lasting power of attorney, then you do not have a legal authority to make decisions for somebody else if they lose capacity and are unable to make those decisions for themselves. So I think in terms of people who are aging without children, if there are partners, neighbours, friends, even a solicitor can be a lasting power of attorney for you. Obviously, it's important to discuss with that person what it is you want in the future in terms of your healthcare, and sometimes doing a very sort of basic advanced care plan, which says what things are important to you as time goes on, who you do and don't want to be involved in your care, and even things like donation of organs, and anything around funeral wishes as well can be included in an advanced care plan. Sometimes people put that into a will also, but an advanced care plan is another suitable place for that. I think that's probably it until somebody asks me tricky questions, which I suspect will happen very shortly.